What's up everyone, Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick, and I have another album review for you. So another one that comes out the week of the 29th, actually it comes out on Halloween, is the newest offering from Outre-Tombe, or Outre-Tombe. It's their new album, Abysse Mortifère. All this is in French or Quebecois, and I don't pronounce things very well in that language. I don't pronounce things very well in English often, so yeah, gonna be a little bit of a struggle here, but I wanted to review this because I really like this band. I had the pleasure of seeing them at MDF in 2019, and they blew me away. So this comes out on Temple of Mystery Records. This band formed in 2010 in Quebec City, Quebec. This is their third full length, and this band is filthy, dirty, old school death metal. It sounds like it crawled right out of the sewer grates of the cover of Slowly We Rot. It is that nasty. This band is firmly latched on to that late 80s, early 90s style of death metal, and it kind of takes from two separate camps. Definitely takes a lot from Swedish death metal, loads of, you know, like that kind of gritty Entomb sound, of course, and definitely a lot of Left Hand Path, and also kind of more US death metal, but more along the lines of bands like Autopsy. So it's very punky, very sludgy, and very, very French-Canadian. The opening track, the title track, actually opens up with some really cool horror atmosphere. Actually, I thought it sounded pretty cool. The synths on it kind of do this, you know, weird sort of chime on it, and you hear the scream slowly start to build in the background, and then boom, we are off to the races. Old school death metal, very punky. In fact, the first half of this album really lays heavily on just deep beat, crusty dirtiness. I'm talking like they kind of went further back. Instead of Entomb, they went to Nihilist and then threw in some Discharge, but also threw in like some filthy Autopsy stuff and early Pestilence. The vocals on here, I think, are particularly good. I love this dude's style. It's very over the top. He kind of throws out these big yelps. They're very dry and throaty. And I think that adds a lot to the atmosphere. It sounds like he's gasping in pain and agony, or just some zombie just screaming at you in Quebecois. I don't know if that sounds friendlier or not, but it's still a zombie. You should still be scared. But songs like Cenobites, which thank fuck that one's at least in English, because the rest of these aren't. Coupe Gorge and Desaucy? Sure, I don't know. All really hang on to that straight up D-beat style, very punky riffs, lots of down picking, and in between there you get sort of like those double time kind of bolt thrower kind of grooves and stomps in there. This entire album is high energy as hell, and there's kind of a good reason why. When it came down to recording this, I believe they recorded this album almost entirely as a live session in the studio. Now, I think the vocals sound like they were recorded separately, like in a booth, because they definitely sound isolated from the rest of the music. But it does give you a live performance sort of style sound. It feels like a demo, like just recorded on a tape deck, albeit a little bit better produced, but it's just the band in the raw right there in front of you. And aesthetically, I kind of like that approach, but it is kind of a mixed bag because the production here is pretty muddy. I mean, thick, like chugging pancake batter thick. There's a lot of mud. There's definitely a lot of mud on this. Again, I kind of like the old school sort of attitude on here and the sort of DIY, like let's just record it live. But unfortunately, you kind of miss out on some of like the more distinct moments in the riffs. Necrovortex sounded very raw, but it was also much better produced. And I think because of that, stuff was actually able to stand out a little bit more. There's really cool riffs in here, but sometimes they're buried in mud, and you get a lot of bleed through from the bass, which, I mean, it kind of just bleeds into the guitars. It's kind of inaudible. And sometimes you get like little inconsistencies in the mix, which are kind of cool. Like, for example, for some odd reason, I think the drums got a little bit louder on the song Coupe Gorge, or however you say that. I'm sorry to all our French-speaking viewers. It just sounded like it got a little bit louder, especially the snare. The snare got more prominent in the mix where it was kind of buried before. And when you couple that with the vocals, it sounds like you're listening to the band in the next room, but the vocalist is sitting right next to you screaming the lyrics. He's not like super, super loud in the mix, but the fact that he's so clear makes him sound like he's more present in the mix versus the rest of the band, until a solo comes by, which the leads do cut through the mud pretty damn well. Now, towards the back half of the album, it gets a little bit more groove-laden. The song Exsanguine is one of my favorite songs on here. This one just brings in some solid groove-laden riffs, brings in some murky tremolos, which again, because of the production, it's kind of hard to really pick the melody up. It kind of just sounds like melodic mud, unfortunately, but when they break down to some chuggier riffs, and there are some seriously nasty chuggy riffs on here that actually kind of remind me a little bit more of Suffocation, like a nice slow breakdown. Because when it comes down to like, blast beats and such, there's maybe only one section on here with a blast beat. The rest of it, D beats, and then fast, thrashy sections, which again remind me a lot of bands like Pestilence. Like they're just going full bore, kind of chaotic, and kind of bringing in like a sort of a death thrash vibe. Also, I think where they do the thrash metal meets the more like groovy death metal side, I think they do that best on Haute et Court. Again, sorry, screwing up all these names. That one has some really cool, just straight up groovy parts, and they just kind of bounce back and forth between nasty thrashy sections with great riffs. And again, when they're doing like more chuggy riffs versus the tremolo, I think the riffs stand out a little bit more just because you can make out the guitar a little bit better in the mix. And most of the time, this stays very high energy. In fact, it kind of tracks like a live album in terms of like every track kind of fades out very quickly at the end, and then boom, you're into the next track. There really isn't a lot of atmosphere outside of maybe the very beginning of it, where you have these synths and such and the screams. It kind of builds up the mood a little bit. And then the last track, Horospexite, sorry, that one has a really cool fade in with a really cool crawling lead melody. Again, it breaks itself apart from that main riff, which, I don't know, when it's just one guitar playing it, sometimes it sounds a little indistinct, and again, it kind of blends into the bass. But that song definitely explores a lot more dynamics. The opening's real slow and creepy. It's kind of mood building, and the fact that it fades in makes it sound, I don't know, a little bit more ominous, like it's getting closer. And then it just shifts to fast, thrashy death metal, one of my favorite things out there. And when they bring in tremolos on this song, they stand out because I think they use some higher register chords instead of like the really low tremolos, so it doesn't bleed into the bass as much, and they kind of create some cool harmonies there. And this isn't like a super melodic offering. This is about being just kind of punky and ugly and just in your face and kind of disgusting. And with that mix, it kind of gives you that, but it also kind of takes away from the overall listening experience because, I don't know, I kind of wanted to be able to hear more like I heard more on their previous albums, which again were raw, but I think were mixed a little bit better. I also have some slight issues with the pacing. Again, like the first half is very D-beat driven, and the songs kind of run together because they're kind of doing the same style of riffs over D-beats. Granted, they'll change it around every now and then, like, make it a double bass instead of, just the single kind of straightforward D-beat. But they do kind of run together and they're very similar. Then the back half, they kind of throw in the more groove-laden stuff, with more thrashy riffs. I think if they just mixed up the song order, I think that would make this stand out a little bit more. But honestly, I had a good time listening to this. And I mean, this is just a pure throwback. It is just gross and disgusting. And the live feel is kind of a cool thing on there. But unfortunately, it's just the way it was mixed, and that kind of hampered it a bit. So I want to give this 3.5 stars. I really enjoy it. I think the music on it is solid. It is fast, it is energetic, and it is just kind of fun to listen to because it is just so in your face the entire time, and there's definitely loads of camp to it, which I love. That mix really kind of hampers it in terms of being able to pick out distinct riffs. It kind of just gets really muddy, and the fact that the vocals are so clear makes me think they could have cleared it up a little bit more. Then the pacing issues with too many similar songs kind of being back to back. But overall, this was still really enjoyable and really fun to listen to, and I strongly recommend you check out Outre-Tombe or Outre-Tombe. I'm not entirely sure how to say their name or anything in terms of song titles. I'll probably screw up their names too. Check out all their stuff. Outre-Tombe is awesome. Go see them live. If they tour near you, they put on a flat-out killer show. So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe because we do stuff like this all the time.
We are also on Patreon. If you would like to support us there will be a link down below. And we still have shirts available. If you would like one, hit us up on thrallsofmetal@gmail.com. Send us a message, put shirts in it, and we will get back to you and hopefully sell you a shirt. So with that, I thank you all for watching once again, and we will catch you later.